What if the history you learned in school was only half the story? What if the foundational moments of the United States were far stranger, more dramatic, and more unexpected than you ever imagined? Prepare to have your understanding of American history completely reshaped. We're diving deep into the secrets, the shrouded mysteries, and the truly unbelievable choices that are etched into the very fabric of this nation. These aren't just dusty dates and names. These are the raw, human moments that forged a superpower. Get ready to have your mind blown. The Whiskey Rebellion, a fiery test of power. Imagine a young nation, barely out of its infancy, facing its first true test of federal authority in 1794, and the United States government, under President George Washington, has imposed a tax on distilled spirits. This wasn't just any tax. It was a direct challenge to the livelihoods of thousands of frontier farmers. For many, especially in western Pennsylvania, converting their surplus grain into whiskey was the most practical way to transport and sell their crops. This new excise tax felt like a direct assault on their economic survival. They saw it as an unfair burden, reminiscent of the British taxes they had just fought to overthrow. The farmers, many of them Revolutionary War veterans, felt betrayed. They had fought for liberty, and now their own government was imposing what they considered an oppressive tax. Their frustration simmered, then boiled over into open defiance. Protests escalated quickly. Tax collectors were harassed, threatened, and even tarred and feathered. Homes were burned, and federal marshals were met with armed resistance. This wasn't just a few disgruntled individuals. It was a widespread, organized rebellion. President Washington faced an unprecedented crisis. The very legitimacy of the federal government was at stake. If he allowed this rebellion to stand, it would set a dangerous precedent, potentially unraveling the fragile Union. He had to act decisively. In a move that shocked many, Washington didn't just send a small contingent of troops. He personally led a massive federalized militia of nearly 13,000 men, a force larger than the Continental Army he commanded during the Revolution. This was an undeniable show of force. The sight of the president leading an army to enforce federal law sent a clear message. The rebels, facing such overwhelming power, largely dispersed without a major confrontation. A few leaders were arrested, though most were later pardoned. The Whiskey Rebellion was a crucial turning point in American history. It demonstrated the new federal government's ability and willingness to enforce its laws, even against armed resistance. It solidified the power of the central government and established a precedent for federal supremacy over state and individual defiance. This event was a testament to the young nation's strength and its commitment to the rule of law. It proved that the United States was not just a loose confederation of states, but a unified nation with a strong central authority. The echoes of this early struggle for federal power still resonate in debates about states, rights, and government authority today. The Louisiana Purchase, a gamble that changed everything. Now let's jump forward a few years to 1803, to a deal so audacious, so massive, it almost defies belief. We're talking about the Louisiana Purchase, a transaction that doubled the size of the United States overnight. But the story behind it is far more complex and filled with unexpected twists than you might imagine. Thomas Jefferson, then president, had a vision for an agrarian republic, a nation of independent farmers. To achieve this, access to the port of New Orleans and the Mississippi River was absolutely vital for westward expansion and trade. Without it, American farmers west of the Appalachians would be at the mercy of foreign powers controlling the river's mouth. At the time, New Orleans and the vast Louisiana Territory belonged to France. Under the rule of Napoleon Bonaparte, Jefferson initially sent envoys to negotiate the purchase of just New Orleans and West Florida. He authorized them to offer up to $10 million. What happened next was a stroke of incredible luck and political maneuvering. Napoleon, facing financial difficulties from his European wars and a looming conflict with Great Britain, suddenly offered to sell the entire Louisiana Territory. This was an offer no one saw coming. Napoleon's decision was driven by several factors. He had lost control of Haiti, a key part of his New World Empire, and realized that defending such a vast North American territory from the British would be nearly impossible. He needed money, and he wanted to prevent the British from seizing the territory. Jefferson's envoys, Robert Livingston and James Monroe, were stunned. They had no authorization to buy such an enormous tract of land, let alone for the price Napoleon was asking, $15 million. This was a monumental sum for the time, roughly $300 million in today's money. Despite their lack of explicit instructions, They understood the immense strategic importance of the offer. They took a massive gamble, agreeing to the deal without consulting Jefferson. They knew the opportunity might never arise again. When news reached Jefferson, he was conflicted. He was a strict constructionist of the Constitution, believing the federal government only had powers explicitly granted to it. The Constitution said nothing about the president having the power to acquire vast new territories. Yet, the strategic advantages were undeniable. The purchase would secure American control of the Mississippi, remove a powerful European neighbor from the border, and provide an immense landmass for future generations. It was a deal too good to pass up. Jefferson ultimately put pragmatism over strict constitutional interpretation, arguing that the power to make treaties implied the power to acquire territory. He pushed the treaty through Congress, facing some opposition from Federalists who feared the expansion of Republican power and the dilution of their influence. The Louisiana Purchase was a tapestry of political maneuvering, strategic foresight, and sheer luck. It was a gamble that paid off spectacularly, fundamentally reshaping the geography and destiny of the United States. It paved the way for westward expansion, the concept of manifest destiny, and the eventual settlement of the American continent. This unexpected acquisition was one of the most significant land deals in history, forever altering the course of American development. It highlights how pivotal moments can arise from unforeseen circumstances and bold decisions. The Teapot Dome Scandal. Corruption at the highest levels. Now let's shift gears to a darker, more scandalous chapter in American history. The Teapot Dome Scandal. This wasn't a rebellion or a land deal. It was a shocking tale of corruption that rocked the nation in the 1920s, exposing the dark underbelly of politics. The Roaring '20s were a time of prosperity and cultural change, but beneath the surface, a major political scandal was brewing. At its heart were valuable oil reserves, set aside by the government for the Navy's future use. These reserves included Teapot Dome in Wyoming and Elk Hills in California. The Secretary of the Interior, Albert B. Fall, was entrusted with overseeing these reserves. However, Fall had a secret agenda. He began to lease these valuable oil fields to private oil companies, specifically Mammoth Oil Company and Pan American Petroleum and Transport Company, without competitive bidding. The deals were made in secret, and the terms were incredibly favorable to the oil magnates. In return, Fall received substantial loans and gifts from the oil executives, including cash, bonds, and even livestock. These were, in essence, bribes. The scandal began to unravel when a senator from Wyoming, Thomas J. Walsh, launched an investigation. What he uncovered was an intricate web of deceit, bribery, and abuse of power at the highest levels of government. The public was outraged. The Teapot Dome scandal became a national sensation. It exposed a shocking level of corruption within President Warren G. Harding's administration. While Harding himself was not directly implicated in the bribery, the scandal deeply tarnished his presidency and contributed to a loss of public trust in government. The investigations dragged on for years, revealing more details of the illicit dealings. Albert B. Fall eventually resigned from his position. He was later convicted of bribery, becoming the first cabinet member in U.S. history to be imprisoned for crimes committed while in office. The Teapot Dome scandal was an enigma that shook the nation. It highlighted the dangers of unchecked power and the corrosive effect of greed on public service. It forced Americans to confront the reality that even those entrusted with the highest offices could betray the public trust for personal gain. This event led to significant reforms aimed at increasing transparency and accountability in government. It served as a stark reminder that vigilance is always necessary to protect democratic institutions from corruption. The legacy of Teapot Dome continues to be a cautionary tale about the importance of ethical leadership and oversight. These three events, the Whiskey Rebellion, the Louisiana Purchase, and the Teapot Dome scandal, are just a few examples of the unbelievable true stories that have shaped the United States. They demonstrate that history is rarely a straightforward narrative. It's a complex, often surprising, and always human story. From the fiery defiance of frontier farmers to the audacious gamble of a president and the shocking betrayal of public trust, these moments reveal the true character of a nation in the making. They show us how power is asserted, how destiny is forged, and how integrity is tested. History isn't just about what happened, it's about why it happened, and the unexpected choices that led to profound consequences. The more we explore these hidden corners and dramatic turning points, the more we understand the world we live in today. What other unbelievable moments do you think shaped the USA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey through history as intriguing as we did, please give this video a like, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the past. Your engagement helps us uncover more of these incredible stories.